Thanks again for tuning into Moonshine Gaming. Today we're going to be doing another top 10 video. We're going to be doing the top 10 rarest and most expensive Nintendo 64 games. Now, as per usual, we have a couple parameters that we're going to be following for this top 10 list. First off, they're going to be cartridge-only prices. Second off, they're going to have to have been sold in North America. And there's a couple exclusions that we will not be including, and that's the not for resale cartridges and also the color variations of cartridges. An example of that would be the WCW Backstage Assault or Turok Rage Wars. But without further ado, let's get into it. First up, number 10, Goemon's Great Adventure. Now this is actually the third game in the Goemon series, but it's only the second Goemon game on the Nintendo 64. Unlike its predecessor, the Mystical Ninja, which is more of a free-roam adventure game, Goemon's Great Adventure goes back to its roots as a side-scrolling platformer. The game is difficult, but it's not unfair. It almost feels like its side-scrolling version of Dark Souls. It provides a brilliantly entertaining combination of colorful visuals, amazing level design, crazy characters, fast-paced platforming action, and an upbeat and diverse soundtrack. This is a really good game. It also has an added bonus of a co-op mode. This game is currently worth $125. Next up, number 9, Castlevania Legacy of Darkness. Now this is a free roam action adventure game. It's technically a sequel to Castlevania 64, but it's actually more of an upgrade of the original game. It includes a ton of the same levels, characters, weapons, monsters. It is better than Castlevania 64. It features a more complete quest with a few more bosses and cutscenes. It almost seems like Legacy of Darkness is the game that Konami wanted to release as Castlevania 64, but they didn't, obviously. So they just, spiced it up a little bit and released it as Legacy of Darkness. This game's worth $126. Next up, number 8, Transformers Beast Wars Transmetals. Now this is the first of the Blockbuster exclusives on the list. Now what this means is it was a Blockbuster rental only. You couldn't actually purchase it in stores. The only way to buy it was to buy it from Blockbuster after they stopped renting it out. The developers didn't actually give them to retail stores, they only gave them to Blockbuster to rent out. Keep this in mind for the rest of the video because there are a couple of these later on as well. Now this game is a one-on-one fighter and it is not good. It has clunky controls and it's brutal. I mean, if you're a Transformers fan, maybe this would be a cool game for you, but if you're a one-on-one fighter fan, I would not suggest this if you're looking for a game with good gameplay. You don't even really fight. You more so run around and just spam projectiles at each other, and they only connect like a third of the time. It is a pretty uncommon game. It currently is worth $138. Next up, we got number 7, Ogre Battle 64. This is the 6th installment of the Ogre series, and it's debatably the best strategy game on the N64. The basic gameplay remains unchanged from the previous entry. In almost every mission, your goal is to defeat all the enemies and liberate the enemy strongholds. To do this, you have to send out groups of your units from your headquarters, and then you command them to walk around the fields to explore the areas for hidden items, to fight enemies, and to seize strongholds. It kind of has a weird graphical style. The map screen is 3D, but with 2D characters, but the rest of the game is exclusively 2D. It's kind of odd, but it does work actually well for this game. There's a ton of content and an amazing soundtrack. I give this game an A+. The game is currently worth $147. Next up, number 6, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Where do I start with this game? First off, it's amazing. It is so good. If Banjo-Kazooie in South Park had a baby, it would probably turn into this game. Conker had a metamorphosis in personality, which turned him into a rude, sarcastic, irresponsible, and very adult-themed chap. The polar opposite of his previous persona, He's offensive, crude, vulgar, and downright hilarious. It has colorful graphics, fluid controls, great level design, and one of the best bosses in video game history, the Mighty Pooh. Now, if you want to play this game, but the N64 version is a bit out of your price range, there are a few other ways to purchase it. It was remade on the original Xbox under the name Conker Live and Reloaded, and it's also included in the Xbox One compilation disc, Rare Replay. This game for the N64 is currently worth $162. If you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit that like button. Next up, number 5, Bomberman 64 Second Attack. Now, Bomberman was originally loved for his simplistic and wonderfully addictive multiplayer modes. And you know what Hudson said to that? Nope, we are not doing that. We're gonna make a couple single player adventure games for the N64, which is what they did. They made Bomberman 64 and then the second, Bomberman 64 Second Attack. So Second Attack is pretty similar to Bomberman 64, with the addition of a sidekick Pommy, and also they added back the beloved multiplayer modes, which I think was a good call. Multiplayer was a great addition with a ton of maps, although the gameplay didn't feel as fluid as the original games for the Super Nintendo that the fans were craving. Pretty easy gameplay, and I would say the boss battles were a little lackluster, but other than that, it's pretty decent single player adventure game. The game is currently worth $291. Next up, number 4, Worms Armageddon. This game was made for multiplayer. It may not cause your palms to sweat like GoldenEye and Smash Brothers, but it makes up for its lack of raw intensity with some outstanding explosions, outrageous weapons, and a really good focus on strategy. In a nutshell, you have a limited time to move one of your handful of slimy worm soldiers to attack the enemy and then move away. All the worms are complete with their own accent and vocabulary, and it's all done in a straight up 2D world where everything in the foreground is solid and an obstacle that you have to deal with. Single player mode is also pretty good, but firing up this game with a few friends is definitely how this game should be played. The game is currently worth $310. Alright, we're getting into the heavy hitters here. We got number 3, Stunt Racer 64. Now this is the second Blockbuster rental exclusive game on the list. It's a racing game, which was a follow-up to the game World Driver Championship, which was really well received by fans, and people were really excited for this sequel to come out. Futuristic arcade racing with a retro twist, which includes both aerial stunts and object collection. It has crisp graphics with solid frame rates, for the era of the N64, of course. It was an all-around solid racing game, and a lot of fans were upset that it was rental only because they went out to stores and probably wanted to actually purchase this, but weren't able to do that due to it being the Blockbuster rental exclusive. This game is worth $542. Next up, number 2, Super Bowling. Now this is one of 3 bowling games on the N64, and I would probably say it's the worst of the 3 as far as gameplay goes. Mediocre gameplay, but, you know, pretty fun for bowling enthusiasts, I guess. One of his upsides is the course selection. You can play on some pretty awesome lanes, some of which include being able to play in a forest or on a pond. The graphics are pretty dull and fuzzy, but the music is pretty decent, with a pretty big track list of about 20 songs, and they all have their own personalities, different genres. Not really much else to say about this game, except for the fact that it's really hard to find. It's currently worth $619. Number 1, the holy grail of N64 collecting, Clayfighter 63 1/3 Sculptor's Cut. Another Blockbuster rental exclusive game. This game is really hard to find. It's a claymation themed one-on-one fighter with hilarious characters and amazing voiceovers. My personal favorite is Boogerman. It's an upgraded version of the original game, Clayfighter 63 1/3, and it has 4 new characters, Although, to be able to add these characters in, they had to remove a couple things from the game. They had to remove some of the fighting moves that were included in the original game. It's kind of sad that this is the last Clayfighter game that was actually released, because the combination of humor and fighting was pretty awesome. There have been multiple Clayfighter games that have been announced since Sculptor's Cut came out, but they've been cancelled. Most recently in 2016 there was one that was supposed to come out and it got kiboshed. But there is still hope that we can get another Clayfighter game. This game is worth $989. Now for those of you interested in the other Blockbuster exclusive rental only games, I have them right here and I'll rapid fire through them real quick. We got International Track and Field 2000. We got Daikatana. We got Blitz Special Edition. We got Razor, which is a scooter game. And then we got Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. Now this is the best of the bunch and it's worth around $100. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed the top 10 rarest Nintendo 64 games. And if you liked the video, consider subscribing to Moonshine Gaming for lots of awesome video game content. Thanks for sticking around till the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, you might also like these.